What? Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Willie T, doing my thing. There is a lot of music, a lot of feed coming through. Okay, because of this thing. Huh. Let me plug in here and see what I'm hearing on this. Of course, we have outside where you can hear things going on. You know, that's part of what we do here. We're right on the coast, right on the highway. Let me turn on one of these feeds. I believe we got the feed set up so that people can actually hear us. Feeds. Okay. People can actually hear us. I mean, mic out here. Okay. Mic out here. Okay. All right. I guess it's working. It's just really bumping on my feed over here. So, welcome to Live 101 talking. We're not on day one. I think it pops up, and I'm still working out some of the details. You know, so why are we live? Why are we doing this thing? There's millions of people who are live. I think that is a bigger picture of what's going on in our world, right? And that's a key topic I want to discuss today. Is how our world, we've now kind of have this thing called the internet that's readily available to everybody, right? I got some crazy ideas for today's show in discussion, so bear with me. Some of these thoughts are just a little like out there, but that's part of the reason I'm doing this, is so people can get to know the real me. You can know who I am, what I do for my services. My loved ones can also watch this and hear stories, see things I've done in my life, and that's why we're doing this, and to create a bunch of content too that can get fed into the algorithm machine, so that you guys can hopefully look at it and be like, I like this, I want to support this, I like what this person's doing, I'm going to go buy a t-shirt, I'm going to go buy a hoodie, I'm going to click like. I honestly don't think we will get monetized just because of the nature of our discussion sometimes. But, maybe, right? Maybe that could help fund a lot of the things we're working on, ease a lot of the high cost of doing this, and be able to potentially reach more people, help more people have these experiences, the type of experiences that have you, dancing like that, right? Let's give them a moment to dance and give them just a little music. Oh yeah, you go, guy. We gotta do some fun things too, right? All right, so yeah. So that's why we're doing this, right? Is to provide a daily, to also create a bunch of extra content that could go out there where we talk about people's experiences, stories, and listen to people's stories. We got some guests already starting to line up, so that's going to be real fun to see unfold. But what we're going to talk about is stories, right? Like that's today's discussion. And I think, and I've had this love hate relationship with privacy. Being where I came from with, the hustle we were doing, privacy was a very important thing. I came from the day and age where, you left your phone at home. You didn't leave it in your car. You didn't bring it with you to the spot because we aren't trying to have the spot blow up. So you leave your phone at home. And furthermore, you even take the battery out of their phone, right? Like, that's the type of life I lived. And I found myself, as we fought for legalization, as mushrooms became, a conversation that can actually be had without fear of repercussions, too big of repercussions. Feds aren't going to come after us for eating a mushroom or two. But, now that's legally available and now we're part of this legal framework, I find myself actually questioning the privacy and what it means for like social media and how we're creating this new ecosystem that rewards views, and that could be good or bad, right? Like there's people who view things that are positive in a positive light. Algorithms pick these up in other countries, they put those forward, and then algorithms also pick up other things and put those forward. That's a conspiracy for a different day. So we ask ourselves, like, what are these things? And I have this grand idea that I want to discuss today, and anyone could come on and argue with me about it if they want to. I love to discuss this topic with somebody. But I think what it is, and when we look at this, right, is stories or what we tell ourselves and tell others to be aware. It's education in a way, right? And I think in the beginning, like when we were just, cavemen on a hill, right? And then all of a sudden, we're making our own fires and we're starting to see there's other fires on the other hill, on the other side of the thing. And we didn't know about those fires, right? And I believe that stories came up to start kind of working that control. And there was kind of the one storytellers, right? They were the ones who knew the stories. They would tell the stories. And stories, I think, were in the beginning a very truthful thing. Like, this is where we hunt, and this is where we stay. And if you eat this berry, it will kill you. And if you eat that berry, it will heal you. And I think that, the evilness of living beings eventually came into play. And it was like, yeah, we don't go over to that hill because that hill is full of a bunch of people who will kill you and not do nice things to you. And those stories started to come up. And I think, and I feel like the fictional side of stories came into play once we had, bigger contexts, bigger cities, bigger societies. And those people were trying to then create a narrative that made them, acceptable and started to question ideas. And that's why, you'd have kings and queens that would do horrible things, but no one knew about it, or they would just think it was made up stories. And I think in the beginning, like in these times that I'm kind of, hypothesizing about and talking about, I feel like they were stories that existed because not too many people could read or anything like that. And so the stories only came from a few sources, from the storytellers. Eventually, books became a thing. Paper, written ideas became a thing. And that was like the first, wave, the first renaissance, if you would say. And that's when people started to wake up like, hey, now every single person has a story. And now more people are writing their stories down. And as people started to be able to read, more people could see those stories. But it still was controlled in a way. It was only controlled by the manufacturers that manufactured the book, right? The publishers. Therefore, those were still controlling the narratives and controlling what stories were being told and what stories weren't. And then furthermore, we, fast forward, all of a sudden we have radio. And radio is the same thing. We're telling stories. Every person is telling their personal truth and their personal story, and more people are hearing it. But still, radio doesn't reach everywhere. It doesn't reach every story. And once again, lots of equipment involved and lots of technology that makes it really hard to things. So it's still in control, right? Eventually, TV and programming started up, and once again, same thing. Lots of fictional stories were being told, but also a lot of real stories. But the fictional ones were, better for ratings, and so there was a control over those stories. And then we get to this age that we're in now, where we have the internet. And the crazy thing is no one, they can control the stories in a way from algorithm, and they could kind of, depict which stories are being pushed to the top. But the reality is every story is still there, and every story can still get told. And what this has done now, it has opened up a world where anyone can see the story, anyone can see what's going on. But it's also opened the world of, do we even believe this story? Because is it something made up just to get the view? Because now we have this situation where people are earning a living from these stories. People are earning a lifestyle when they create these stories and when they push these stories. And it's up to us to decide which ones we're going to view and which ones we're not, right? And things that could happen, like, the hot two, girl over there, right? People are wondering why she's famous now, and I see it in people's comments and the ways that people say it. Why did they make her famous? And I don't really think it's a they situation. I think it's us. What have we watched? It became something memeable, and therefore it was funny. So it was funny to watch, funny to tune in, funny to catch, right? And so more and more people turn their eyes to it. And of course, when that AI algorithm picks this up, they're like, let's feed that. People are picking this up. Push it to the top. And that's how this whole thing works. Now, if we take the idea of, a very controversial idea, but an idea that's starting to get picked up over many countries. Even Denver rolled out a program. South Africa's about to do a big program. Alaska had a program, and this program is called Universal Basic Income, right? Andrew Yang kind of put his whole platform on this when he was shooting for election. Where are you, Yang? We need you right now. All right. But this started this conversation of universal basic income. And universal basic income, well, how do you fund this, right? Well, it's obviously taxes and getting taxes right, reduced cost when it comes to other services that we're spending money on wastefully. But it's also this idea of like a VAT tax, a value-added tax, and a value-added tax to technology. See, every day, no matter if you are tuning in and being like, hey, look at me, this is what I'm doing, watch me, or if you're just scrolling through looking at something, you're creating data points. Every moment, every moment of your day, you're creating data points. How long you look at a post, it creates a data point. Which post you pause on creates a data point. Which post you hit like on, of course, creates a data point. The places you like, the places you go, the reviews you make. All of these are data points that are being driven into a system that is generating, unbelievable sums of capital. And these sums of capital are just enormous. Almost bigger than most governments. And this is a great area where I'm starting to see, as we move forward, that's, and they're starting to wake up to it too. Like right now, there's kind of a bidding war between like Facebook and YouTube over who's paying out the most for the content. And what this does is it creates a whole bunch of people who are seeking content, and it does create a layer. But it also creates a layer of everybody's story has the chance of being told, and there's a chance of actually earning a living from those stories. And I know it's a crazy concept to think about, but that could be like the first steps of our UBI. Every single person who wakes up and participates in this in some form or another is contributing to these algorithms, which are creating these data points, which are then turning around and being sold to advertisers so they could directly market, their particular brand, product, or lifestyle to you. And these data points that are getting created are generating revenue. So why not get paid off of these data points? Why not be paid for being part of that viewing audience? Or, of course, then getting paid through your likes and your content creation. And that's a beautiful beginning in a way, right? And we as people, then we have to decide which content we're looking at and which content we're actually following and enjoying, to highlight that. Like, and I found a new trend too. Like, I find myself following and liking random people in third world countries that I have no idea who they are, but I find myself liking their content and hitting those buttons, making sure to give the video a full watch, even though there may be some language barriers, because I know like they're doing this to make a little bit of funds, and they're doing it just to make a living, just so they could survive for another day, not get a Rari or not get anything super fancy, not have a mansion or some content creation house where you do the most wildest thing. They're just doing it to get a little bit of bread that day, and then that's the beauty of what this system has made in a way. And so when we look at this, we got to ask ourselves about the privacy, right? And like, I think if you're willing to completely forego your privacy and give everybody a complete viewing in your life, and in exchange you're getting a return and you're able to live that life, that's a fair exchange. And I think we would benefit more if more people jumped into this, because really when it boils it down, and when you boil down, and I've had to ask myself, what is privacy and why is it important? Of course, when I was hustling, privacy was important, because if I wasn't private, well, then I would go to jail and I would be away from my family and they wouldn't be able to eat, right? I think privacy for a lot of people, say in the LGBT community, or they're not in that community, but they practice that lifestyle and they don't want people to find out, because that judgment comes around, right? If people find out, and so they're trying to be private and hide that, right? And I think privacy comes from other people who are doing worse things, and they want to protect their privacy because they are doing horrible things, right? But if we were to truly get to a position in our world where we could truly just be open and not judging of one another, not judging of someone's lifestyle, like, oh, this guy just wants to smoke weed and live on the coast, he's such a bad person, he eats too much, he's a bad person, which is funny because I don't actually eat too much at all. I was homeless for a long time, and it's funny. I do eat a big meal, but there will be a day or two I don't go without a meal. I mean, I don't know. I'm messed up in some way. I have a beautiful lady who has been helping me change that, and that's a discussion for another day. But that's the idea. You see me, you look at me, you instantly think this. You don't know my story, right? It's not until we could look at each other's stories, and in a world where we could open up like this, and where we could know that some of our basic needs could be met if we just be transparent and say, hey, here I am, this is what I do, this is who I am. We could probably find a more balanced world. We could probably uncover the ones that are doing the horrible things that everybody accuses everybody of doing. And if you choose not to be that, you can choose not to be that. You could just be off of that grid, right? But that's just some of my thoughts on where social media is going, how social media interacts with human beings, and how it interacts with the stories that we tell ourselves, that we tell our friends, the stories that are made up to get you to look, to view, to see, and we need to support the ones that are or being transparent, being open and available, and we need to you know there's no turning it back. Like, Musk said it, right? The cat's out of the box. We have opened Pandora's box. Technology is a reality, right? Do we, as a society, try to have saviors hold that key? Or do we allow everyone the key, and then therefore no one is the overseer of it all, right? Like, for instance, let's think about China, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, please, any of my Chinese friends. But you have a system that is, facial recognition on the trains. I mean, everywhere you go, right? It's viewed, CCTV. There's even casting systems starting up, right? And most people are willing to give that up, give up. And here in America, we do it too. Most people are willing to give up a level of privacy exchange for protection. But when one group or one interest holds that protection, well, then I don't really think it's that's a control technique, right? It's when every person has access to it. I think could open up a new idea for society. Like when imagine that, but I could see some bad actors using it for bad things, right? But if there's bad actors using it for bad things and everyone's part of that, well, then you could view that in and you can check that out. Oh my gosh, we got a new follower and it worked. I appreciate you. Thank you, Dar Murph, for tuning in and listen to our little crazy talk we have out here on the Oregon coast. And more people, if that opens up and more people are part of it, well, then there's no hiding it. The ones who are using the tools for bad actions, people will see those tools being used for bad actions, and we can, deal with those people. And I think as a society, we've started to waken up to being more of a collective, more together. I know that's so hard for someone to say right now too, because everyone sees it and they go, there's no way any of us are united. But in reality, when you think about it, lots of groups have a movement that they're on, and that movement and change happens when people come together and work peacefully to call it out, and that happens. And I'm doing great, and I appreciate getting asked. Doing excellent. We are just shooting our little daily live, and we really appreciate our Twitch followers jumping in here. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as well. But yeah, it was really cool to see the little, Dar, I want to give you an extra big shout out because you were my first one that actually popped up with the little logo on there. So it's nice to see that all those plugged ins worked. All that extra hard work of trying to figure it out, because I'm an old guy. I got to teach this old guy new tricks. No, that's not even true, because I'm a firm believer in the Japanese business sense of Kaizen, always learning, always changing, always adapting, right? And that's what we need to do as a society, right? We need to change, we need to adapt, we need to awake to being fully available, being fully transparent, or continue to allow our oppressors to maintain that control, maintain that definitiveness of who is watching who. And I think that's something that we can eventually change as human beings. I love to get anybody's input or ideas on this, so feel free to make some comments, and then we'll bring them up in later episodes or answering them direct if we can. And so, that's a part of my life that I've overcame a little bit. that I figured out, like, I'm not that worried about it. I actually joke about it now. I was at the last convention and I walked in. I was like, everybody, I did drugs last night. That's because they're still called drugs in the federal sense, but we were in a very legal state, doing very legal things. But it's still funny, the idea that some things are taboo while others are not. Some things are acceptable while others are not. Some things are judged while others are not. These taboos need to change as we open up. And I think too, like when we talk about this, I love the phrase. I'm a big South Park fan. I mean, I'm such a big South Park fan that we have. Oh, I didn't get him plugged in here. Let's see here. I gotta pop him up just cause he deserves. Huge South Park fan, right? What the hell? We should put him over here. There we go. What the hell? All right. So huge South Park fan. And people say to me all the time too, it's like, you guys have obviously seen that meme, like, South Park, had us laughing at all this stuff for so many years. Why all of a sudden now we're trying to cancel this or cancel that? And I think the reality is South Park did a wonderful job of holding a mirror up to society and just be like, look, this is you. This is you, society. Look, you see you? This is you. And we all had to look at that mirror for a moment and say to ourselves, like, wow, that is me. I should really rethink this, And I think that's what happened. Over 20 years, you have whole generations, that are waking up to these ideas like, oh, yeah, you know what? That is kind of messed up that we do that and that we laugh at this. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe that is affecting people. And even one of their latest episodes, I don't know if you guys seen this, but even the Token character, that got me. I was like, oh my gosh, I did have that bias, and it's a waking up to it because, like, and I'll be honest, I have a bias, and I discovered this. We had openly talk about this, and yeah, I'm a man, I'm a guy, right? So, clip this off so you can counsel me before I ever start. But I did not see women, in the work. Like, I mean, we were drug dealers. We were, highly, alpha guys, right? Like, and it took me recognizing that and acknowledging it to know it, and then to take the steps to correct it, and to even call myself out when I, didn't do it. And that's the importance, to make those changes. Like, yeah, you can mess up, but it's what do you do with the mess up? What do you do with the failure? You learn and you adapt and you make the changes that you need to make. And now I've made the changes, and sometimes I slip, and I appreciate the ones around me who make sure to call me when I slip, and that way I can correct it, and I could say, and I could do that acknowledgement that needs to happen, like when I was a hustler, like I would, everybody, was always blah blah blah's girlfriend, blah blah blah's girlfriend. So one of the first steps I started doing was making sure to start remembering their names, start remembering who they were and who they are as individuals, and it was, through that holding up of that mirror, I was able to recognize my own biases and therefore start to overcome them, And today I was actually rewarded because I, didn't mess up in a meeting, and I acknowledged a very important person, and it was real nice because their partner was like, thank you for acknowledging them so much on this, and so eventually the biases started to work out, and I started to get, the reward, the thank you, the recognition that I'm working on that, and that's what we can do. That's part of listening. As we listen, we learn, we grow. And That's what life's about. Yesterday's episode was about goals too, and setting goals. And one of the goals too is like, is to also know that if you don't hit your goals sometimes, it could be devastating. It could feel like the worst feeling ever. But it's not the end, like you keep improving. If you make mistakes, you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and do it again. I preach this to my boys all the time. Mistakes are going to happen. You're going to have failures. It's not the end of the world. And I think that's what the council culture tries to prevail, is like, we're going to, completely devastate this person so that they're no longer able to move. But I think as a society, if we were to be a truly forgiving society, and even attached to a little bit of that religion thing, the turn the other cheek, situation, that we would start forgiving and growing. As long as someone's growing and continuing to improve, and when they mess up, let them know, say, hey, you fell off here, but let's keep moving forward. Let's keep improving it. And that's what we got to do as people. And so then when we're sharing our stories and we're telling our stories of growth, people can see that growth and understand it. And when they understand that growth, hopefully everyone can grow and everyone could come up just a little bit more. And that's the importance of seeing the mirror, right? And so is big ups to South Park for showing us that mirror. And that's my discussion for the day. And I think we've kind of clicked the 30-minute mark. I think we're trying to go a little bit longer than that. But today I've got a lot of work to jump into. And I got to get that going. So, but before I go, let's just do this one more time. Let's get the mushroom dance going on. Give him... Oh, that's a little bit slower, but he's got that groove. Ooh. Ooh, yeah. And my mic over here. Pops. There it is. If you want to learn more about what we do out here legally, check out our sponsor. Right there. Bam. That's me. I'm another facilitator out here. We have a few different facilitators too, so we can find a facilitator that matches up to whoever you need. And I want to thank y'all for tuning in and checking it out. Thank you to the new followers. We appreciate you. Shout outs. And if you ever want to share your story, we got the space to do that. We're open to hearing those stories, hearing your guys' experiences. I love hearing people's, when they find their most profound moments, whether it be through a good little buddy like this one right here, or through something more natural, or even, living in the woods, or just having that moment. I would love to hear these stories. So I'm Willie T. Check us out. Y'all have a good one. I think we're going to roll out. All right. Peace.